Hello boyos, Rich Boy J here back with another video, and this video is actually going to be a bit different than anything I've ever done before, because what we actually have here is a book review. So, you saw the title, this thing is obviously very important to me, and it's not hyperbole. Like, I really do wonder why I've gone so long without getting this book right here. This thing is so incredible for mock builders. If you're trying to build mocks of locations we've seen in Star Wars, it's pretty comprehensive for one, excluding like the Clone Wars, which is obviously a big thing in the mock community. But it is just so expansive, so holistic of most of the places we visit in Star Wars, and I just wanted to give you guys a quick look at it. So what I actually decided to do was to structure this video by showing you guys my favorite location from each episode. Since this book is like almost 200 pages, there's tons of just locations that they go over in this. I would take so long trying to show you all of them, so I just decided I'll pick like my favorite from each episode, and then we can really dive deeper into there. If you're not familiar with this book, this is the Star Wars Complete Locations book. There's been at least one other version of this. There might have been even more, but this version is basically updated through episode 7, so it doesn't have stuff from Rogue One forward. I imagine probably after episode 9 they'll probably do another one of these to cover basically everything through the Skywalker saga. But this book basically just looks at various locations that we visit in Star Wars films. It gives you essentially a cross-section look at them, so you can kind of know what's going on behind the scenes. You get a big picture view of how things are laid out. And ultimately, if you're a mock builder, this is an incredible resource for trying to figure out the layout of the mock you're trying to do, trying to figure out like what types of things you should be including in your mock, or just getting general inspiration for things you could build. You know, you might see a location that looks kind of simple on screen, but once you dive deeper into it and see everything that's going on around it, may make it a little bit more interesting and thus more desirable to build. So let's go ahead and crack this bad boy open. If you go to the first page, you're greeted by a pretty nice blue picture of Jabba's palace. I did just want to show you guys firstly the table of contents. Basically just shows you the page numbers for each of the locations you visit. So like starts at episode 1, then it goes all the way to episode 7 over here, and you're greeted by a cool picture of the top of the Jedi Temple as well on the bottom. There's just lots of really nice pictures in this book. I think that's probably one of my favorite things about this. So starting at episode 1, I'm actually going to take you right to the thing that I was easily most interested in, and that is Mos Espa. So this is the area of Tatooine that we visit in episode 1. Gives you a pretty cool, just big picture layout of just how everything's situated in the city. Got some nice pictures from the films, and the one that I'm particularly interested in is this right here, Mos Espa Arena. So let's actually flip through to get to that part. You get a cutout of Watto's junkyard, which is kind of surprising they didn't include that, but still cool nonetheless. You even get Anakin's home, which is, I don't know, that's an idea for a mock, I guess. But yes, this is the Mos Espa circuit. So this is basically a bird's eye view of the map of the circuit where they actually go through in the canyons and through the desert. So yeah, that's a thing. But if we open this up, fortunately, there's really no way for me to get this entire section in view, but I will first start over here, and it gives you just a huge view of what all is going on with the Mos Espa Grand Arena, and this was just so cool to me. I seen this picture online, so I knew it was out there. I knew it existed, but having it in front of me where I can, for one, see everything kind of at once without having to zoom in and look on a computer screen, and being able to just take everything in and like see the small details in this is just the coolest thing ever for me. I had seen the pictures on the left. I had never seen this section over here on the right, so this is cool as well to get a better look at the building where all the pod races are staged before they go out and race. And as someone who is very interested in making a pod racer mock at some point, this is such an incredible resource. Like, you get a great view of the arena, a lot of the buildings kind of surrounding it, so you can figure out how to build those. Like, it's just so useful for mocks. I can't even stress to you, just my jaw dropped when I flipped open to this section. I'm actually really happy they decided to make this such a big part of the book with the flip out pages, because I'll definitely be coming back to this whenever I do my pod race mock, so that is definitely something to consider. Next up, we'll check out the Outlander Club from episode 2. So this is the infamous club where Zam is running away from the Jedi. She sneaks in here and ultimately gets that hand cut off. So I really like this one because Coruscant just is one of my favorite locations in all of Star Wars, and just getting a pulled back view of not only the club itself, but kind of the buildings around it, and just being able to get a nice view of the architecture of Coruscant, I feel is really useful, even if you're not specifically building the club, just to get an idea of what the heck stuff on Coruscant might look like. And just on a book, you don't have to, press pause on the film, but just being able to look at it and take it all in, I feel is very valuable for people doing Coruscant MOCs. But in terms of the club, I like this location quite a bit. I don't know, I think it's kind of cool when we see more urban environments in Star Wars, especially considering how Star Wars has kind of built its reputation on visiting desolate places, i.e. Tatooine. But at this point, Coruscant is bustling. It is very densely populated, obviously. So it's cool to, I guess, to just be able to check out, what the heck people are doing on this. To be able to check out what the heck people are doing in this area. This is not a MOC that I've really seen a ton of. I don't really see people building MOCs of this club. And I mean, I guess it's not the most exciting MOC to build, but I don't know. I just thought it was a cool thing that they included in this. And I think the main draw of this is like the Coruscant architecture. I think there's like a cool speeder build right here as well. There's just some really good stuff to dive into on this page if you're thinking about doing something based on Coruscant. Even if you're not specifically interested in the club, just the general Coruscant aesthetic, this is a good way to get that nailed down. For episode 3, we're going to check out Utapau. I think this is one of people's, especially in this community's, favorite battle locations, and I mean, it definitely deserves it. It's such a cool location in Star Wars. It's basically a location that's in a giant sinkhole, and there's like buildings and many levels that go throughout it. But this is really the picture that I think does this location justice. I'm going to try my best to get this thing on screen because it's like a vertical photo. But this is good. Apparently, this is Pau City, the capital of Utapau. I did not know that, so that's useful information, I suppose. But yeah, this is just kind of a view of what's going on inside the sinkhole. I feel like these are probably one of the most recognizable things, the giant animal skeletons that kind of cover the like landing pads on Utapau. And if we move further downwards, we get just a look at the various levels, and then of course the water located at the very bottom where the Boga falls. But yeah, I don't know. I've always been fascinated by Utapau. It's cool here to be able to check out it more in depth, because I don't think anywhere in the film do you get a view of like the levels kind of sectioned off all the way to the bottom. So if you're wanting to do some sort of Utapau MOC, you can really nail the aesthetic from the top to the bottom. The only thing you have to worry about at this point is just kind of replicating that and going around in a circle if you decide to do something large scale like that. But I don't know. Utapau's pretty cool. I thought it was definitely worth showing off for the episode 3 section of the video. All right, for episode 4, we're actually going to take a look at Yavin. Yavin. What a great location. This is, again, one of those vertical pictures, so I'll spend a little bit of time at the very top of it. So this is a look at the temple, and I feel like this really puts things into perspective, because you just get a look at how freaking tall this tower is. Like, there's just this huge section up top, and this is actually cool because it's like where the meeting happens, or I guess not really the meeting, but the ceremony. That's like the awards ceremony at the end of the film. So that's happening in there at the very top level. And as you move down, you can see there's just so many levels throughout there until you get to the very bottom. Well, not really the very bottom, but this is, I guess, the ground level. Underground, there's like a hangar and such. But this is the recognizable part, right? Like, this is where all the ships are, and there's a million Y-Wings kind of laying around down there. Some X-Wings as well. We got some, looks like GR-70s over here on this side. I'm sorry, no, that's a GR-75. Let me correct myself. But yeah, I got some Mon Cala transports down there. And I really just love this photo because I've never seen this photo before, so I didn't know that there was such an extensive underground section to Yavin. So it kind of, like, I wasn't planning on doing Yavin anytime soon, but it kind of just puts it in my head, like if I wanted to do Yavin, I could do something to where it's leveled like this, like there's the hangar here, there is the underground hangar, so you could, kind of have the building itself kind of elevated, and then you can just go up and up very tall to the very top where there's the awards ceremony going on. So there's just tons of cool stuff in there. I feel that you can really just open up your imagination when you want to build MOCs. So I think Yavin's a cool location. It's kind of underrepresented in LEGO, so shout out to Brick Vault for the hard work they're doing on putting together that incredible Yavin MOC. But just seeing the scale of it here, I feel just opens up so many possibilities. And for episode 5, how could we look at anything but the Battle of Hoth? So this is really just a big picture view at the map of Hoth and where exactly Echo Base was located relative to everything else. Well, not really much else on the planet. I think the interesting thing about this one is they actually show you the AT-AT Walker dropship right here, which is kind of funny because it's a big, ugly ship. It kind of looks like a giant mouse droid. But yeah, this is apparently what they used to drop off the AT-ATs on Hoth. Honestly, had no idea what this looked like, but now I know, and maybe a few of you noticed now as well. But if we open up to the middle section, and this is actually a picture I have seen before, but it's worth looking at because it's just so freaking cool. So this is a look at Echo Base, and it's so extensive. Like, oh my god, this base is freaking ridiculous. But yeah, so you basically just get a pretty big look at the base, all the various ships scattered throughout it. Of course, we have hangars over here with the Mon Cala ships, and I don't know, it's just pretty cool to look at. I would honestly love to see someone do an Echo Base and incorporate maybe a few of these. I feel like you never really see people do that. They're always just doing the hangar where like the Falcon and X-Wings are. But you can see from here, the base is clearly far more extensive than what we see. Basically, the section of the movie we see is literally just this right here compared to the rest of the base. So I don't really anticipate all of this being super useful for MOC builders, just because like who's really going to go out of their way to build like all of this or anything close to this? Like if you're building Hoth, you're probably going to want to do, the main section over here that we see. But it's definitely cool for inspiration. If you wanted to do a Hoth build that had this, but you were thinking like, I want to do something extra. I want to do something that you don't see too often. Like there are plenty of things to choose from on this side of the location of the base. And specifically, I feel like these GR-75 ships would be a pretty cool inclusion. They'd be huge, but they'd be a cool inclusion. So that's definitely something to consider. All right, for episode 6, I wanted to look at Jabba's Palace. And looking at it, I honestly had no idea this thing was so insanely huge and extensive. And I had no idea Jabba's Palace was so extensive. To kind of put it into perspective, like this is the palace, right? This was the entire building. Jabba's throne room is literally like this square right here. You can't even see it. It's so small. I can zoom in maybe. Yeah, Jabba's throne room's like right there compared to the entirety of this just massive palace. Like his sail barge is chilling right there. There's like a sail barge hangar over there off to the side. So if you really wanted, you can do just a giant massive Jabba's Palace MOC and really just include a bunch of rooms no one's ever seen before. I personally thought it would be more interesting to take a look specifically at his throne room. So the option is there if you want to do it. But the throne room, I feel, is one of the main appeals to this section in particular. So if we kind of zoom in here, we get a look at all the familiar elements. We got Jabba chilling right here with that boy Salacious Crumb. All the people watching him. I like this photo because it just gives you a good look at all the surrounding rooms and really just the layout, like the floor plan, right? So if you wanted to build this, you can know exactly where everything is laid out. It is kind of funny thinking about like kind of how the movie plays out, because when you see like Luke coming in from these stairs, it really does give you the impression he basically walked from outside directly into this room, whereas from this, that is clearly not the case. Like Jabba's actual throne room is located far underground, which it's kind of a funny thing to think about. But moving back to the actual throne room area, so if we come further down, we get a look at like the Rancor pit, Looks like there's detention areas even over here. So I feel like this is really the most valuable part of the Jabba's like palace slash throne room area. Like I think this is what most people would be making if they decided to work on a mock like this. So it is. I don't know. I really like the location of Jabba's palace and specifically the throne room. So there's some very useful information in here for that. And finally, for episode 7, we're going to take a look at Starkiller Base, because why would it not be Starkiller Base? So this is actually the reason I bought this book. I've been looking at reviews of this and someone kind of flipped past this section and I was like, oh crap, like I need that. I desperately need that. So that's why I got this book in the first place. And then once I got it, I realized all the other cool stuff in it. But for one, it's just great reference material for Starkiller Base. You guys can pretty obviously tell why this is useful for me. But one of the cool things about this, and I knew this was the case from Battlefront specifically, you can kind of tell whenever they do the pulled back views of like the stage area, there's like an entrance to a hangar right here. So it gave the implication that the part of the base, at least part of the base, was actually underground. I didn't realize that so much of the base was underground. Like this is kind of the ground level and it's pretty extensive going down lower than it. So I think that's kind of cool that so much of this is actually built into the ground. The way I'm building my mock, it kind of takes this and sits it in those mountains behind it, really just because it would be extremely difficult for me to build this big of a section up. So I don't know, it's pretty self-explanatory. But the other cool thing about this is apparently while all this stuff is underground, Snoke's like chamber, wherever like the hologram room is actually up here in this main section for whatever reason. So I kind of find it funny that they decided to, of all the rooms, like let's just throw that one right there above ground for whatever reason. But anyways, if we move over to the right side, we get an amazing look at the oscillator room. So this is a giant building where my boy Han Solo takes the biggest L that Han Solo has ever taken. And it gives you a good look at the trench that leads up to it. So like all this stuff is super useful for me because I'm going to be incorporating this into my Starkiller Base mock. Specifically the trench. The trench was really the thing I wanted to get a close-up look at because there's so many details in there and this book just shows off all of it. Like this doesn't leave too much to the imagination because it's all here. Like I'll be able to use so much from this image to be able to build that oscillator room, which is awesome. That's exactly what I would want from something like this. So I feel like that's the case with really any of the locations you look at in this book, guys. This thing is just incredible. I can't say enough good things about it. Like I said, if you're a mock builder and you, one, just want mock inspiration, or two, you know what you want to build, but you don't know what all to include in it, this is the book for you. I'll just flip to random pages while I'm talking here. But yeah, this thing is just, I'm so happy I have this. I think this has to be my favorite Star Wars book that I own. I own quite a few of them, but this one is by far the most useful, especially for someone like me who builds mocks. So that's really going to finish up this video, guys. As you can probably tell, I am definitely recommending for any of you to get this book. This is totally worth the money. I got it on Amazon for, I think, like 25 bucks shipped. I have Amazon Prime, so it might be more if you're actually paying for the shipping. But this book is the way to go, guys. So that's going to finish up the video, guys. Like I always say, if you like what I do, go ahead, support the video by hitting the like button, support the channel by smashing that subscribe button, and I'll be back again very soon.